Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay I'd like to talk about the concept that's put about a lot about how we are as children, we're deeply affected through the superheroes or characters that we see in TV and movies when we're kids. That if we see a certain like a James Bond type character, or some super cool looking scientist, that we're affected, and our impressionable young childhood minds are. Well, gee whiz, I really want to be a rocket scientist because I saw this positive depiction of a rocket scientist. Now, the complaint sort of along with that is that, well, all these depictions previously, in white countries, by the way, all these depictions had involved white people. It was, a white scientist or a white starship captain or a white, although not everybody knows that Captain Kirk, William Shatner, was Jewish, and so was Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock in the original series. There were other Jews as well involved. The producer the conceiver of the series, Eugene Roddenberry, was Jewish, and most of the other people providing the ancillary services and so on were Jewish as well. And people don't sort of realize that. They see that William Shatner was a straight white guy, and they just assume he was not from some sort of minority group, whereas he was. When he recounts his childhood, he was part of some Jewish gang, and then there was the other gangs and these gangs, and they used to have punch-ups in the street and so on. But anyway, this idea that we're so impressionable as children that we're encouraged to again become rocket scientists and astronauts because we saw a rocket scientist and astronaut who looked like us. And so the idea is that we have to insert into white-only franchises, by the way, we have to insert, as a society, have to insert positive images of, black lesbian astronauts and, trans rocket scientists. And this creates the positive images. So the story goes, so the narrative goes. This creates the positive images, which encourages these minorities to, again, become rocket scientists and the like. Now, I don't know to what extent that's true. If you wanted to do that, wouldn't you, start up a new series, a new TV program, or create a new movie that only has black geniuses in it? Wakanda type thing, only has black geniuses in it, and only has black rocket scientists, and only black starship captains and crew and engineers, and they're all black lesbians. And so wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't that create? But instead, the claimed purpose is to provide positive images for that, and then you create a whole program. Like the movie Shaft, for example, that had nearly all black people in it. And I'd have no problem with that. I don't care. But instead, they need to go very popular, very successful white franchises, such as Star Trek, and destroy those by inserting minority characters at every step. So it always has to be a non-white lesbian who's in charge, and this type of thing. And so the purpose, I get confused, is the purpose to destroy the white franchise or to uplift these so-called oppressed minorities? And it's a bit hard to tell sometimes which is the primary purpose. Maybe they can kill two as one stone, get rid of that damn positive white images, and at the same time insert positive black lesbian images. Nonetheless, let's come back to this idea. As a kid, were you affected by did your career choices, did your behavior, were you affected by these characters you saw in movies as a kid or TV series? I don't recall sort of thinking about it that much. I didn't think about race really as a kid. It's only since the race grifters and the hustlers and the mass migration scam started that the race hustling, grifting sort of has jumped up a few notches. I didn't really think about it. I noticed behavioural differences between racial groups, that I noticed, but I didn't think about it in racial terms. So, I didn't care. Now I did, and since then as an adult, I've done a vast amount of business traveling. So I'm used to being the only white guy in the room, or the only white guy in the hotel foyer, or the only white guy in the office, or the only white guy in the restaurant. So I'm used to those sorts of things. And having, again, for many, many years done international business travel, it's something that I didn't really consider and don't consider outside of, again, the race hustling and race grifting industry that's everywhere these days, and imposed only on the West. I mean, it's not imposed in any non-white country. So did it affect me? Did I want to be, well, gee, I wouldn't mind being Superman. Those laser beam eyes are really cool. So, well, no, I didn't really sort of, I can't think of a single childhood hero that I thought, well, I want to be him. I don't remember thinking about it that way. James Bond, for example. Now, did I think some of James Bond's gadgets, like his car or something, was really cool? But that was, that's about as far as it went. Did I want to sort of live that lifestyle? Even as a kid, I thought, I don't know, James Bond seems all cool and that sort of thing, but it seems like everyone's running around trying to kill him. I mean, do I really want that lifestyle? Well, no. Not really. Other heroes, I had no idea that William Shatner was Jewish. So I didn't think about it in those terms. I didn't think about it, Jews and Gentiles, until I was exposed to North American sort of, the race hustling and the frantic sort of attitudes of Jewish activists in the northeast of the US, which I didn't get exposed to until I was an adult. So I didn't really think about it at all when I was a kid. I went to school with Jewish kids, and it didn't cross my mind. But anyway, was I encouraged to become a starship captain? Well, no. I probably identified more with the Vulcan, the alien Spock, than I suppose I did with the others. If I was to say that, were there any that I sort of remembered in a certain way? And I admired Spock because of his intellect, his capacity for analysis, and his capacity for sort of profound conclusion statements and so on. So that, I don't recall really being affected by that, but if there was any effect at all, it probably would have come more from Spock than from any other character there. I remember the engineer Scotty. Did that encourage me to become an engineer? Well, no. Did Dr. McCoy make me think about being a doctor? Well, no. Did the helmsman and the other people there? I don't recall being affected by anyone, but I was very much a Star Trek fan, as a kid. And these were reruns. I mean, they were reruns of the reruns by the time I got to see it. But I was quite impressed by it. Again, the James Bond movies, but I don't recall there was any character in there that I wanted to be. No, none of them. And I think of other, like the superheroes, the cartoons, or I watched Bugs Bunny when I was a kid. Again, reruns of the reruns of the reruns. But did I ever think about, hey, I want to be Bugs Bunny or something? So I don't recall being affected really by any. Maybe there was. Maybe it was just too subliminal for me to pick up. But I saw lots of shows, lots of programs and movies where white people were scientists and rocket scientists and that sort of thing. And again, I don't recall, oh, gee, I want to be a rocket scientist like that guy. And so I don't know what the effect is on young children. If they're brought up in an environment of rabid activism and they see activism in front of them, then they can maybe identify with that delusional fantasy. I may only have an IQ of 80. I may be as lazy as fuck, but gee, I'm going to change the world because I'm going to wave a lot of placards. Maybe that has some sort of, because it's a quick substitute for hard work and heavy lifting. So maybe there's effect in that way, that children are encouraged to become climate activists. You may have no future. You may be never going to buy a house. You're never going to have children. Your life isn't going to amount to diddly squat. But fuck me, you can wave a shitload of placards. You can do a lot of screaming on the street. That's a great substitute for a meaningful life. I'm sure there's effects in that sense, but does showing black lesbians as scientists, does that have an effect on? I don't think it does, because the reality is, unless they're all given affirmative action rocket scientist degrees that they don't have to work for, but once you sit down and realize the hard work involved, then it's a very different matter. For example, you look at the super fit karate expert, secret agent, the super cool dude, and he gets the chicks and da 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 da. And you think, well, I wouldn't mind being him. Everyone treats him with respect. He beats the crap out of anyone that looks like him. That sort of thing. And then you realize that would take, he's been doing martial arts for 10 years, 2, 3, 4 times a week. He's got to be on a very strict fitness regimen. He's working out all the time to maintain that level of fitness, to be able to exercise martial arts at that level of competence, that he beats up all the bad guys without breaking a sweat. That takes a shit. His diet has to be very, very careful with what he eats and his protein intake and this sort of thing. So the boozing, carousing guy who's super fit in the karate, no, the two don't exist, or they can't coexist. So once you appreciate the reality of being able to deliver those sort of outcomes, the super fitness, the martial arts, karate chopping the crap out of anybody, once you realize just how much work that takes, the amount of discipline it takes to continue there, once anyone realizes that, I think, nah, I enjoy takeout burgers too much. I enjoy drinking beer too much. And so you don't end up doing those things. So the depiction of a fantasy to a child, so you too can be a rocket scientist. You too can be fated as a great expert. But once that child grows up to be a little bit older, to realizes how much work is involved over what period of time and the amount of sacrifices needed, that it's not a push button thing. You just can't wish it like a child can wish something. You just can't wish it into existence. So I don't think there is that much effect on children. Not that they don't dream and get deluded about it. What kid hasn't dreamed of becoming a rock star, for example? When you realise how much, again, not so much work's involved in that, but how much practice. There was an interview with one of the sort of great guitarists, and now this guy had a lot of natural talent, which 99.9% of us don't have. But on top of that, he was practicing, in piano terms, practicing his musical scales, but he was practicing his guitar for 2 to 3 hours every day. I mean, he was constant, and that's then he was performing on top of that. That's the amount of time and work he had to put into being that proficient. And he was controlled very much by his agents, everything to hear that. So out on stage, he looks like the big star and the big guy and the kick-ass dude. The reality is the amount of work and time he had to put on top of his natural talent. He had to put into that. Most people won't do that. That's beyond. So that's the reality, that amount of hard work. The fantasy can be you see a character on TV, but those ideas of being a rock star quickly disappear, or a movie star quickly disappear once you're faced with the reality and the balance of probability of it ever happening. Now, there's all sorts of stories about how the waitress in the cocktail waitress in the bar was discovered by the Hollywood movie producer who I'm going to make you a star. But those sort of things, assuming they even do happen, one in several million. So the idea that you're inspired by a TV show when you're a kid for that level of probability, 1 in several million, is again quite delusional. So I don't think, I don't know what you think. I put your comments below, but I don't think that there is much influence at all on these two. Their entertainment, and that's it. And if anybody holds a delusional state over that, then such as becoming a rock star, or becoming the rocket scientist. Again, once they realize the harsh reality, the work, the discipline, the time, then they'll quickly pick something much easier to pursue, and where the chances of success are much greater, and where the chances of failure are much less. You've been with Tassus, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.